Welcome to Forensic Friday.
Where we examine the intersection of true crime, psychology, and the heart of being human in the middle of it all.
All right, so to our lovely forensic friends, we actually have a guest speaker who we are going to keep anonymous, as they are an individual who works within the healthcare system. So I want to let everyone know, Janine and I recorded this episode without really critical thinking skills.
Yeah, we didn't stop and think as much as we needed to.
Yeah, yes. I think we thought we had our thoughts that we've had for a long time. And I think because of how this case has blown up in the media and because it's such a sensitive topic in the US right now, we just jumped kind of on that bandwagon. And I will say we do say some really empathetic stuff. We do talk about the victim being a human being and whatever, but we also say some stuff that isn't the best, probably.
Stuff we should check out with a professional.
Exactly. So we have a professional here to help us understand a little bit more behind the scenes. And again, we are going to keep this individual anonymous just because this is such a high profile case right now, and we want to keep people in the healthcare system safe.
And honestly, the fact that we have to keep them safe is part of what Natalie and I don't want to contribute to. So in not using our critical thinking skills
at the time
of
our episode,
we have good details. We did our research, all of that. What we were missing, I think, was the human element of sitting down and talking to somebody who has sat in most of the roles in healthcare. And that's what our anonymous, lovely, amazing human guest is going to help with today, like bring some gravity to the situation in a way that this is affecting people a lot. A lot. And we need to be sensitive to that. So welcome, friend.
Thank you.
And you're you're forensic bestie for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. Absolutely. It all started out after I heard about the podcast and then went on a road trip, and both directions in the road trip caught up on all the episodes, and then just sort of been stuck since. So
we did an episode. We didn't talk to any healthcare folks. So we researched it pretty well, and we did our normal, like, this is a human being with inherent value and a family, and he was doing his job. Right. But also in there, we said a couple of highly inflammatory things.
It's hard not to. I mean, honestly,
I know.
It's a really yucky subject.
And it's hard. And Nat and I were laughing because it's like, okay, if this happened to a therapist, if somebody just decided one day, therapy's a crock of shit, everybody's been paying thousands of dollars for literally nothing. It's bullshit, blah, blah, blah. And somebody gets murdered and then everybody's looking at therapists like we're the problem. I would feel so defensive. And really sad. And so it hit me. There are so many people working in the healthcare field who genuinely care about people and want to be helpful. They're working in a company. What company doesn't want to make I work at a nonprofit and we need to have a profit.
Right. Well, and I think that it is, there's bad people everywhere. Right. There's good doctors and bad doctors. There's good police officers and bad, like there are good. So I think that there's that side of it. And then there's just also like, we are just in a season where it's so easy for people to dehumanize people. Like that's where we're at.
And polarize everything. That's what our society does. We said a couple of potentially stupid things. We want to get your take on them. So we figured we'll do a Q&A style because we're going to check out some of our things with you first.
Yeah, I like that.
The podcast is about critical thinking and taking in different perspectives and talking about how this happens. We didn't use our critical thinking.
But first of all, you guys are healthcare too, right? Like you're in 100%. So you see the bad of it too. And I think it's easy. I mean, when I actually, obviously I worked in the provider side of healthcare for a very long time for, over 15 years before taking this job, and everybody's like, you're going to the dark side. And then when I worked there, people were like, oh, I'm really surprised you came to the dark side. Like this is affectionately, if you are in the industry, what people say, I think. Well, insurance is an easy fall guy though, too. It's the more public side of it that people see. People don't really understand the contracting. They don't understand, the relationship between insurance companies and providers and large health systems. And they don't understand competition in healthcare and areas where competition is not allowed in healthcare. And, insurance companies didn't start off like the bad guy. In their opinion, bad doctors came in overbilling and taking advantage. And so then they had to put this into place. So there's a lot of perspective there that I think now being on all sides of it, I've sort of sat in all of those places. I can kind of look at it more objectively and be like, well, truthfully, the whole healthcare ecosystem is in trouble.
Which is
right.
true.
It's just really easy to blame this for-profit monstrosity that is the health insurance side of it.
Demonize human beings, which is not something we want to do. That's not critical thinking, right? So I think a couple of the more neurotic things that we said, moronic, not neurotic. They weren't neurotic. They weren't in neurotic enough.
They weren't necessarily moronic. They were impulsive.
Oh, yes, impulsive and not overly informed. And so
correct.
But you were humans reacting.
They were human.
Yes.
They were human
response without the full picture.
Yes. Yeah. And one of those things was something Nat said. I'm going to throw you under the bus.
I'm really sorry. I'm sorry.
I'm going to throw you under the bus.
That's fine.
And back you over. But then I'm going to tell on myself too. Okay. So I'll keep it even Steven.
Oh gosh, here we go.
All right. Tell her what you called him.
You're it.
Oh, you tell him. You got
one of you has to tell me.
I said the insurance company, but more specific, or I said the healthcare industry.
We honestly don't know exactly what we said.
I don't know.
But it was one of those.
I think I started with healthcare, but then we switched to pharmaceutical.
Yes.
The pharmaceutical world is basically like the drug cartel. So I said the thing.
She's looking at
it.
Wow.
Yeah, I get
it. That's a lot.
No. I get it. I think that the pharmaceutical industry is probably a little bit on the periphery of this. They're just a different being than healthcare itself. The healthcare ecosystem, they sort of sit outside of that.
Yeah.
For different reasons, but they're relied upon in the healthcare industry. So I think that's where it gets complex. So I don't probably have as much good to say about pharma.
See, and that is.
I do have pharmacist friends, and they're going to probably text me if they listen.
But you know what? The thing is that I feel super similarly to them that I do myself as someone who's in healthcare, right? There is the way that our country approaches healthcare and pharma being a part of that ecosystem and allows for it to be what it is today. And that's really at the crux of what all of this is, right? As of today, healthcare is big business. It's supposed to be big business. It's set up to be big business. There is nothing restricting it really from being big business. Until we as a country decide that's not the way we want to approach healthcare, none of that's going to change. And so you can really snowball the blame game. Like you can play that out pretty far, but you got to think of, do we think that healthcare is a right? And if we do, we have a country that approaches it like a business. So that's the start of the incongruency, in my opinion.
Damn. I mean, if that isn't the truth right there, because the truth is the healthcare system is big business at every level.
It is.
And so that requires all the other parts to be big business. If it's big pharma, then you have to have big insurance because insurance has to pay for pharma. And then what you said about the providers is such an interesting kind of full circle thing, because I've seen that even in my almost 20 years in the field, I really have seen it merge and change and grow through lots of different iterations. It was therapy was covered in the beginning of my career, then they restricted it more than it was covered. Now it's gone a little bit bananas where I think it's ballooned
at this point
in expense, right? And so literally that helps pay our paychecks is to some degree this system. So even on a provider level, it is still big business to a degree, even though I think the providers often experience the biggest squeeze at this point. But yeah, Nat basically called it the cartel. I'm so sorry.
I get it. I mean, I get it. It's really troublesome. You know, I think it wasn't that long ago. I saw a clip of Bernie Sanders talking to one of the weight loss companies about, you know, I think it's like $60 for someone in another country to get this weight loss medication. And it's, you know, hundreds and hundreds of times that for the United States. But I'm really looking at him going, y'all are kind of the reason that they're able to do that, though, right? Like we can say it's wrong now, but this train left the station a long time ago.
It really did.
And it's a profit business. It's a business.
It's a business. And we're talking obviously about the murder of the CEO of United Healthcare. And you know, one of the things Natalie and I said about the victim in the shooting, 50-year-old man with a family, and he was doing his job and doing it well. And the interesting thing that we highlight in the episode is the shooter and the victim were both valedictorians of their high school. These were two very smart people.
And the shooter, from what some of the research I did, they come from money.
Yes.
Right. And so
that's family.
That's the other interesting part is like, you know, with situations like this, you typically don't see someone coming from money going after someone else who makes good money. You know, you usually see someone who's been really wronged. And I think they're still going to really unpack a lot of the shooter's story, because Janine goes into a lot of like his own health stuff. He had some really bad back problems and all this stuff. So I think we're going to uncover, or it's going to be uncovered as to like why.
I think it's also been really interesting to me that it's pretty public where BT lived, but he chose the investor relations meetings in New York City. I recognize that he was close to there. That was like it geographically made sense, but it that almost made it feel even more calculated that like, right, he's there to talk before investors about the profits. That's why he was there. And he chose to do it in a way that I don't know if it had happened in Minnesota when he was going to get his coffee, if it would have had the same impact as he's in Manhattan on Investor Day.
Absolutely.
You know, so it feels pretty calculated, pretty well thought out, which takes a certain level of intellect, right? So it was interesting to me.
Oh, this kid's smart.
Well, and
completely.
Message
engineer, right? Was he an engineer? Something similar to that? I don't know. I could be wrong.
Yes, computer science.
Yeah.
Computer science. So the thing that's interesting about him too is like message received. Like we work with a lot of people who shoot people over really dumb shit. I mean, like Linda McLeod, I'm a man. I'm going to go shoot everybody. Yeah. It really is kind of that simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the reason America is sympathizing with this guy, even though his behavior, what he did is wrong, is because so many people in America have struggled with insurance. And one of the things I wanted to ask you, and you may or may not know, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You go into some of the problematic things about DT, about the victim, that had been exposed that likely the shooter had found out about, right? Like this is somebody who got online, researched things, knew how much money he made, knew a whole bunch of stuff. And obviously America's pretty funny because we want our free market economy, but then we're also royally pissed off if something we think should be free, somebody else makes money off. And that's true when we have clients come in for domestic violence, and we talk about that in the episode. There were a few extra things that we found in his history in regards to denials, going from like 8% to 22% in 2 years, class action stuff around algorithms that were creating denials and some of those things. You may not be able to comment on that, and I'm really okay if you don't. But I think that's relevant, not as a reason that he was killed. There's no reason to kill another human being.
Yeah.
But do you think that there were some things going on there that may have contributed to why he was targeted?
I think that it is problematic to just talk about a denial, right? Because claims will get denied because providers didn't give enough information, They know what information they have to provide. They have to code things a certain way, right?
Yeah.
A denial is not just one thing.
Right.
And that's why there's an appeals process. That's why there's requests for additional information. So I'll just use the side of, being on the provider side. Prior authorizations and a lot of these things, these are things that are contractually agreed upon between a provider and an insurance company. So there's a baseline there of like, look, we're going to try to get our computer system, whatever system we're using, to send information off to to make sure that we're getting all the information we need to get so we can avoid a denial, right?
Yes.
And yes, there is a very patient-centered rationalization there. And I believe that for the most part, providers are out there doing great work trying to care for the people that they're trying to care for, right? So there is that. But then there's also the getting paid side of it.
Yeah.
And that's where I think it's a sticky wicket in healthcare, because those two sides both exist.
Yeah.
It's a business. And so on the other side of that is an insurance company that is also a business, and they don't just blindly approve every single thing. Now, I've seen where they're trying to build algorithms and things to reduce administrative burden on providers that auto adjudicate approvals. So that's when we say something comes in and this follows a pretty straight line. It's a knee replacement, right? Like they've tried conservative therapy, they've done this, they've done that, they've done PT, they need a knee replacement. Yes. 9 times out of 10, that's always going to get approved. We'll just approve it.
If it's a straight line, you've seen the algorithms sometimes be built for efficiency specifically.
Yeah, I think algorithm's kind of a tough word, right? Like it's a portal where I'm on the provider side of healthcare. We have the portal for XYZ insurance company. We send the stuff through there. They tell us what they need. We send it. For the most part, that's going to go pretty smoothly.
Yeah.
Now, if we forget a piece of information, if they just don't meet the criteria, which we as a provider know exists, we might have missed something like that happens, we can still get a bounce back and say, yeah, you got this denial, but let's appeal it, right? And let's say, sorry, we didn't get you the information, or you know what, they did do conservative therapy for that, or whatever the case may be, that we just missed something that goes in there. So I do think we may oversimplify denials a little bit, and we may assign them as sort of predatory, it's a predatory thing. We're trying to save money, so we're just denying these things because we don't care. And somewhere in the middle is the truth.
Yes.
Yeah.
In all of that.
Don't you think probably on some level, sometimes it really is, it's a land grab between two entities, two high-powered entities. So you have big pharma, hospitals, healthcare systems, you have all of that fighting with insurance, right? So
seemingly fighting with insurance,
we work together, but also we're both trying to keep and make as much money possible, because that's business.
Right. Well, that's how I feel. This is like, was my capstone project, and getting my master's in healthcare administration really revolved around this idea. And that, in my opinion, having sat in different places across the healthcare ecosystem, the true issue is there isn't a single entity in today's healthcare ecosystem that is willing to take a haircut.
Yes, that's it.
And the truth of the matter is that until everybody does, it doesn't get resolved. So the government side, not taking a haircut. The health systems, not taking a haircut. The providers, not taking a haircut. The health insurance companies, they're all beholden to these profit margins.
Yeah.
And now it's further exacerbated by the fact that you had this pandemic hit, which everybody thought was just going to annihilate the insurance company, right? They're never going to be able to afford all this care. And you have all these falsehoods about, hospitals are coding people to COVID even if they didn't die. I mean, just so many misunderstandings about what was truly happening there. But the truth of the matter is we had people paying a considerable amount into their premiums and not utilizing care at all. We didn't have elective surgeries. People weren't going to the doctor. People weren't utilizing, right? So we're dumping all this money into our premiums. Well, what do you think that did to the health insurance profit?
And they're not going to walk it back because they have an overage.
They did a fair amount of trying to even that out, but this was an anomalous situation. Like they hadn't been here before, right? And so you had car insurance companies writing people checks because they weren't driving their cars and saying, here, we're returning some of the premiums that you paid for us. Everybody's trying to figure out, what are we going to do with this extra revenue, right?
Yeah.
Yes.
But then you also had this imbalance because we passed some legislation that gave healthcare coverage to folks under Medicaid.
Yes.
You know, and things, because we had all these people who were losing employer-based insurance. We threw ACA up in the air and said, what the heck are we going to do now? So we had all of these very anomalous things that happened in the pandemic that sort of forced everybody. Medicare was upside down. Medicaid was problematic. The health insurance companies, you had doctors that didn't do surgeries for 6+ months out of the year. That's their bread and butter. So you had, the ecosystem was upside down. And I think it has destabilized some of that status quo. Just my opinion. I don't know this is true, but I bet I could find things that would make it fact-based. But just in my experience, like, I just think it then destabilized, and it also forced efficiency finding everywhere.
Oh, and even proactive efficiency finding that maybe we didn't even need at the end of the day, but we did it because we're trying to be smart business people. So we don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
Because you have all of these people who are super passionate about the fact that if we are not here, then what happens to the people?
Right.
Yes.
Right.
If the health insurance giant goes under,
yes,
you know, and they carry all these members, and then there are all these members that their care is just up in the air. You've seen it fighting between, you've probably seen the articles, right? You have these behemoth health systems now.
Oh, yes.
These amassed wealth and just bought, and mergers and acquisitions happened across the landscape of healthcare, right? And that's just a whole nother subject for another day. But the truth of the matter is that they gained negotiating power and they started going toes with insurance companies. And so insurance companies just said, hey, we're paying you plenty. I know you think you get more piece of the pie because you're bigger, but you don't. And so you have these, it's happened in Colorado where we are, we've heard about it, where they've just stopped covering. This system said, we're not going to, then fine, we're not going to negotiate with you. But you hear the story, and who's the bad guy? The insurance company.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
But they wouldn't sign the contract. It takes two people to sign a contract. You have to come to a mutual agreement. You both walked away. I say 50% is that health system's responsibility and 50% is this insurance company. So I say all that to say, there is a level of complexity that comes around a denial. And so I just caution people to think. You might hear this story about how an AI algorithm denied care. First of all, maybe that happened, maybe it didn't. I don't know. I know there are certain regulatory boundaries about that, that a licensed individual needs to be a part of that process, not to approve, but to deny. So I'd be very surprised if that was somehow happening intentionally on a widespread basis, because these big companies have a fairly large and powerful compliance and legal division. I know there's AI council set up in these places and things like that, that I'm not saying it didn't happen. It very well could have been an issue where something's adjudicated into a denial. I'm not certain. I don't know that case very specifically, but I just think because we have all had these experiences where care that we've needed has been denied, whether it's a medication that we wanted or a procedure in a certain way, or we have something that's just simply not covered and is considered completely elective, or whatever the case may be. Everyone has their health insurance story.
Yeah.
So
it's not hard to see. United is the biggest. And they also own space in every single section of the healthcare dollar. They are health insurance. They are provider. They are revenue cycle managers. They have completely owned every avenue of the healthcare dollar. So it's not hard to see.
Right.
No.
I'm really passionate about this subject, but
no, it's like a bigger target.
They're a bigger.
Yeah.
It's interesting because a couple of the things that we highlight, and this is something like Natalie and I were like, we're going to leave the episode as is, because I think it reflects a lot of people's first reaction. It has a little bit of heart, but it's also just the anger of loved ones being affected by this. My mom's been affected. I've been affected by this, whatever.
I'm still going through an insurance issue.
Yeah, she's still going through it. And we talk about those things. And I make a comment that's maybe a little flippant, but maybe not. But I think what I'm missing in it is who's actually responsible. So I made a comment about what's the difference between walking up and shooting someone or denying critical care that ends up killing the person, and maybe in a long suffering kind of a way. And that's hyperbolic, which is
It
not
feels
great.
that way though. It does feel that way.
Emotionally, it feels that way.
Yes.
And I think what I was missing in that though is, number one, it's more complex than that.
Yeah.
It's not that simple. It's not one person denies a claim and that kills somebody necessarily.
Right.
But there are people, and I would argue it's a lot of people in this country, because our country has endorsed big business healthcare and how we vote.
Yes.
It is what it is. And that's not to say you need to vote any which way. It's just a fact that our country has kept this in place. The majority wanted something different. The majority would vote for something different.
Look at the disdain which people say Obamacare.
Yes.
Right? You had people after the election Googling, are Obamacare and the Affordable Care Act the same thing?
They didn't even know.
They didn't know. And they're like, oh, I voted to lose my coverage, right?
100%.
I think that's the closest we've gotten to changing the narrative about what's possible in the healthcare system. I think that we have this great opportunity to look at other countries and how they're doing it and recognize we're probably not ready to pull off the Band-Aid and go to full socialized healthcare, but why isn't there this ability to look in the middle and say, hey, so I think there's so much blame to go around, I guess is my point. It doesn't stop me from being shocked. Like, right, I'm originally from Iowa. Was from a very small town in Iowa, went to the University of Iowa, just a very down home 50-year-old man who was beloved. I've talked with many people who worked with, know him personally, and he was just known as like a very incredibly kind guy, just wicked smart, but just like a good human based on everybody. Sometimes these things come out and then you just hear people saying, yeah, he was a total asshole, right? Like you just hear stories about how he was in these meetings and he just shredded people, but instead it was like he was just this very authentic leader. He made people feel valued and appreciated, which I think is really difficult to do at that level.
Yeah.
I've said this a million times. I formerly held a job in administration, right? And if you're on the provider side of care, administration is a swear word. Administration.
Yeah.
It was eye-opening. I held that role during COVID. It was probably one of the most challenging times in my healthcare career that I've had, hands down. I would never want the job of a CEO in any healthcare, any part of the healthcare system. I would never. It's actually what I dreamed of. It's what I started out wanting to do. It's what I aspired to be. And boy, the second that I was close to it, I was like, you couldn't pay me enough. They are the ultimate middleman.
Well, and one of the things you shared with me is right now, there are posters all over New York City. There's increased security. There's hits out on people. It's just really, really bad. And these are people.
Yeah. Right. And I think that's what gets so messy too. Like, I love what you said, Janine, about it feels very polarized is not the right word, but it's like, and I'll just share a quick example. I had to take an ambulance after my flash flood experience.
I would say.
And even in that, it's like, I was having chest pain. We weren't sure what was going on. I was pregnant. And it does feel from like I don't know if this is the right word, citizen, like someone who's not in the
You're a consumer.
Yeah, as a consumer, it's like that genuinely feels like I either have to choose like potentially having an infection and pneumonia.
Yes.
And not knowing what's going to happen with my pregnancy, or I have to potentially like cut off my leg and pay for my ambulance.
Absolutely.
Because of the contracts with insurance. And so, it is helpful, even as I'm still fighting with both sides, to hear you talk about this in such a different perspective, because most people, and when you were talking about like, humans would vote. If we knew more, we would vote maybe differently around healthcare.
Yeah.
That's the thing, is we don't know.
We don't know.
That's exactly what my thought was. Like, I always seek first to understand.
Yeah.
And so when I first heard the news, I was just in absolute shock. I was in absolute shock.
It is shocking. It is shocking.
A position at that company at one point in my career. It was somewhere I really aspired to work for because they were, to me, known as a complete disruptor.
Yeah.
They were trying to disrupt the healthcare system and do something different and not be beholden to the same traditional ways. But at the end of the day, it just rocked me, just as someone I've spent my entire career in healthcare. No matter how far I've tried to run away from it, I still end up here. And
we get that. We do domestic violence.
It's like I
can't get away from it.
At some point, I'm just going to have to admit that this is just where I landed. But I guess, I too am a consumer, and I just had an experience the other night where something was just off. And I was having one of those moments where I was like, okay, so I'm having these symptoms. These are symptoms of a heart attack. And I was feeling really sick. And I was like, one really super rational part of my brain is like, girlfriend, you're having anxiety. You just need to chill out. You're going to be fine. The other part of me is like, do I want to be that girl who's having very obvious symptoms that something is wrong and doesn't? So I just looked right at my husband and I said, I need to go to the emergency room. And he was like, because I never, I had hospital at home when I had COVID. I will avoid the hospital.
Yeah.
So he kind of got up and he's like, what's wrong? And I was like, something's not right. I don't feel good. And then on the way there, I'm like, you know what? Just take me to an urgent care. Because I think because in my brain, I was like, it's been so long since I've dealt with an emergency room. Like, I don't even know what my coverage is. I know that I'm on this high deductible plan. You calculate in your head.
You do.
Not what's going to help me get better, but how much is this going to cost?
Yes.
What's covered? Am I driving to the right hospital? If I go to this hospital, are they covered? I don't know. I'm like, my hands are shaking so bad. I'm pulling up my app. I'm trying to find what's my coverage? I can't remember.
And you work in healthcare.
Yes.
You have a significant role in healthcare. So
we've made it so hard on people. We really have. And
it has happened over a long period of time with a lot of different players. And I think our episode short-sighted that. And it's funny, my mom. Everyone loves Tina. Everyone loves Tina.
The best.
Tina,
the literal best human. Yes.
Oh, she's the best.
She's the best.
Well, her medication that is keeping her on this earth was $13,000 a month until I was on the phone with insurance for almost 48 hours to get it done. I pushed it through. Now it gets delivered for free to her house, basically. But I have so many resources to fight for her. And the first thing my dad said, the very first thing he said when we found out how much this miracle medication that turned 9 months into 5 years and counting, first thing my dad said is he goes, we'll sell the house. Very first thing he said, he goes, we will ride this train and we will pay this monthly.
We'll cut off a limb.
As long as we can. As long as we can physically do it. And when we can't do it anymore, we will sell this house and we'll keep going.
And then imagine you don't have the wherewithal to make those phone calls for 48 hours. You don't have a house to sell. We have people who are bankrupt in this country because of healthcare, but you have to ask yourself the chicken or the egg question.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. We did not.
Doctors are not providing this care for
I sometimes miss that.
I can tell you later. I can tell you
but
right
it's fair. It was a really fair. Yeah. I mean, obviously it's shared by so many.
Yes.
Oh, I know.
You're not alone, right?
But also, we have a responsibility as content creators to be as accurate as we can be.
Yeah.
We challenge our listeners to use critical thinking to avoid reactivity.
And we have to do the same
thing. We got to do the same damn thing.
We're human beings, both with two pretty incredible examples of, I literally had this life-ending experience that could have gone a completely different way while newly pregnant. You don't think to yourself, I almost died there.
Yeah.
I just wait it out and see, or should I go?
The ambulance company in another state is in network.
Yeah, I'm like, Kaiser cover this, and I'm literally sitting there thinking, probably not. And I will be honest, in that moment, like,
Yeah.
and thankfully my husband, he oftentimes uses more of his rational brain in these like high stress situations, but he was like, we'll figure
it out.
We'll figure it out.
Yeah, we'll sell house if we have to, but we're
Right.
going to take care of baby Gray. We're going to take care of Nat. Like, but I mean, honestly, if the helicopter, if you didn't know, and it's interesting to me that the rescue folks said, hey, this is a free ride. This is State Patrol.
It was State Patrol. It wasn't
she would have hiked her ass out of that.
I would have 1000% hiked my ass out of there.
Because she's not.
That's the thing. What I think this is, I think this is such a complicated issue, and I think what is difficult is because it's the first reaction is to oversimplify. Mm-hmm. You're this guy, you took them from 2021 to here, increased profit by millions and millions of dollars. And
it was bad on paper a little bit, to an uneducated.
It does. And listen, I saw a list of the CEOs of all the, insurers and their salaries.
Oh, yeah.
He was the lowest.
That's crazy.
But this was the shocking thing.
By more than half of some of them.
That's what
he made?
Yes.
I mean, it's still an absurd amount of money. I can say it. I mean, he was 10.2 million.
That's where I get like all twisty. I'm like
10.2 million last year. And there were people making upwards of 24 million.
This is where I get twisty about it.
Yes.
I'm like, and it goes to the haircut.
Well, this is the big mad. Because somebody at some point, you know what it is? It's not somebody, it's all of us. All of us at some point have to collectively decide that we are upset enough about this issue that we value lives above business collectively. Because again, we collectively are not voting for something different.
Because people have been fear-mongered about what a change in healthcare will be.
Yeah.
You always have to trace it back to the dollar.
That's so
like every time you look at it, you got to take it back to the dollar, and you got to say, who would have a reason to want to make the American people feel like it would be bad if we changed our healthcare system and moved to a more socialist approach, right? It's the same, like just take health insurance out of it and imagine that the most profitable university president was gunned down in New York City.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Who isn't paying student loans right now?
100%.
Right. Well, and here's the thing.
Yes.
And like this might be an uneducated statement, so we might have Garrett take it out. But I don't think, my opinion isn't that things should be free. I don't think healthcare should be free. I don't think my student loans, if I can, for working for a nonprofit, if there's student loan forgiveness, cool. I don't think people should pay my way for me to go to school. I just don't. Like, I think I need to pay that if that's what I choose to do.
And I think healthcare is a human right. So we have a bipartisan friendship, which is actually great.
And I think that's brilliant. I think we should always challenge each other and be willing to accept other people's thinking and challenge ourselves.
Working in the healthcare system, I do not think therapy should be free.
Well, because you want to talk about a haircut, that includes you, that includes Nat and I. And so am I willing to make less?
Well, and I mean, here's the thing that like, this is just like a mind-blowing moment for me, right? Yes, there have probably been, and I don't know any statistics, I couldn't speak to it, but people that needed certain levels of care and died in a denial or in some sort of, the number one killer of people ages 1 to 19 is gun violence.
Right.
You're not wrong.
Right. And this man was shot in the middle of the street. Like, pick a problem. We have plenty of them to go around. Right? Like, I guess that's my point in bringing up the university presidents. I think there is this ideological thing happening here. There is it a right? Isn't it? Is it something we should pay for? Isn't it? Does the quality of the care we receive, does the money that's being invested
that's
part learning of hospitals, there's
part of the problem too.
But yeah, we have this high maternal mortality rate, right? Like we lose, women die delivering babies in the United States. Some third world countries have better rates than we do. But then you also have to ask yourself why a birth in a small town in the Midwest or a C-section or a hysterectomy costs the same as it does in San Francisco.
Right.
There's no competition. There's all these hoops you have to jump through to open new facilities and to create competition. We have, I mean, there are 3 conglomerates that masterfully own the vast majority of the healthcare in our country right now. It doesn't make it more affordable. That does not make it better quality. Doesn't make it more efficient. So there's a lot of problems to go around. And I guess my feeling is, as long as it is still even the not-for-profits, I mean, there's such a misnomer about what that is.
Yes. Yeah.
And what it really means.
Said, we're a nonprofit. We absolutely have to make a profit. If we don't make a profit, the doors are not open.
Right. We lose our office.
I mean, it's about tax breaks at the end of the day for a lot of these health systems and things that started out charitable. You know, they were Holy Trinity or Mary Mother of Saint Rocha or like whatever.
I got trapped in an MRI machine.
But they're all owned, you know, it's all corporate now. It's just not the same as it used to be. And as with many things, we haven't caught up. And so I think at the end of the day, the truth of the matter is that yes, there is a person running that company that is beholden to investors and shareholders and profit margins. And why I say they're the ultimate middleman is because I don't believe those are all garbage humans who don't give a crap about people. I think they're people who are trying to balance the consumers they care for, the employees that work for them, and ultimately the pressure that they face from that profit margin at the end of the day, like many, many people do in their own jobs. And,
you know, we collect fee for service. And we do that with court-ordered treatment, but also voluntary care. And there's so much pressure. Therapists hate asking for money. It's really hard to talk to someone about their deepest, darkest, and then ask for a copay or a
1,000,000%.
It's horrible.
It's like oncology care.
But we also have to. And the therapists that don't collect money don't stay in practice. So even us, even as we're ranting about the system, on the most foundational level, we do actually understand this. And so I'm just so grateful that you're willing to talk with us, because we're leaving the episode as is, because I think it reflects a lot of people's initial response to this. But I really hope that people will listen to what you had to say. I know I am. Just temper it a little bit and do some critical thinking, because this is actually one of the most bipartisan issues in our country. I think that's what we're seeing. It's actually a lot of people saying
a great unifier at this point, which is crazy because nothing has been.
It's messed up. So it
is. But it's because, I mean, it's really, really easy. It's typically the most memorable things that we all have about healthcare is in time of crisis. There's 100 times that it works. To go in for your most basic needs, your things are covered, it works, you can afford it, your premiums, whatever the case may be, things happen. But in times of crisis, that's what stands out in your head. And that's often when it's the most complicated, because there's so many complexities to it. It is so individualized, and no 2 situations are the same. And so it's like anything else that, you know, we don't tend to give a lot of credit for the good times and for the good things that happen. It's a tragic, really crisis, a highly emotive situation. And all we care about is getting better or the thing that needs to be solved. And so I think it's very easy to think about what's broken. It's very easy to see the greed that is in the system. It is there. And it's easy to understand why people who are losing their homes, I mean, we can go to the food we eat. Not allowing us to easily navigate that in a way that keeps us healthy, so we don't have to use this system at all. You know, so there are systemic issues.
I could
also
agree.
Though, I'm going to say right now, Kennedy, if you're listening, I know you're not, but if you are listening,
in the rare case that you might be,
don't you take away my semaglutide. I will have an absolute cow. We are not doing that.
The thing that floors me the most is, if this is really we should have been listening to the crunchy granola mamas all along. Like, the crunchy granola mamas have been telling us about the dyes. They've been telling us about all the food, but like, we are going to continue to live in sick care. If we aren't able to trust the food that we're buying.
Yes.
nourish our bodies in the way that we need to.
Yes.
And
That is part of it.
it is, it is a huge issue, and it certainly is not okay. It is not working right now. So it is understandable why people struggle. I just think that it is also really easy to oversimplify. It's easy to believe there are just a bunch of people sitting in a boardroom going, nope, we're not paying for that. Nope, we're not. Nope, we don't care if you live or die. Nope, 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 nope. But
Yes.
Yeah.
that's not realistically what's happening. It's just gotten so complex. There's so many millions of transactions. We are far sicker than we ever used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're clearly nothing's working.
Yeah. And I completely and totally agree with you that if diet and exercise worked, obesity would not be an issue.
Fine.
We should be okay with solving obesity through medication if we're okay with solving other health conditions with medication.
Yes.
So let's stop shaming people.
100%.
Well, that and it's all of it's a balance. And I think that's
It's not
like,
an either or.
it's not an either or.
Yeah.
Right. Like I am very much someone who I am probably more of that granola mom.
I kind of love that though, because that's
jealous.
good for me and our friendship.
Yeah, like I am more of that granola mom. I
Yes.
eat pretty healthy, except I do have ice cream almost every night now.
Yeah, you do.
I may
it's
or may
Gray.
not have had it for breakfast.
Gray has ice cream for
Oh,
breakfast.
for sure.
Yeah, not Natalie, Gray.
But I do have, so I err on that side. Like I'm all about mind, body, spirit, right? Like all of those things have to be in alignment.
Yeah.
And it doesn't mean that these other forms to help individuals get to where they want to be, where they need to be for their health,
Yes,
isn't also legitimate,
100%.
right? Like both of them
100%.
are needed.
Yeah.
That's just the thing. It's never as simple as that first thought that comes to our mind, right? It would be like believing that everybody with lung cancer was a smoker.
Right.
Yes.
And not understanding that someone could never touch a cigarette in their entire life. And
Yeah.
get lung cancer.
Yes.
There are just things that happen. I mean, look, COVID is like a perfect example, right? Not a single one of us had any natural immunity to COVID. That's why it sucked. And so no one's body reacted to it the same way. It was this completely wackadoo thing that happened and people freaked.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
we just got so much misinformation and so many things out there. And it's just like, we've got to do better. I mean, we had an obligation to people
Yes.
to help them navigate a disease that no one knew anything about. And we failed at every turn. we just did.
We didn't know.
No. And people don't understand that, right? You should have all the answers. Well, first of all, you can't throw out the pandemic playbook.
No, there is
And
not
be like,
one.
oh, wait,
Yeah.
I mean,
Here you go.
Wouldn't that be great?
Let's write one.
Remember back in what, 1910,
Let's
the
write
last
one
time this happened?
Let's write one with all of our knowledge.
All
on
of our
healthcare
knowledge. Everyone will buy it because Natalie and I know everything.
Yeah, they're gonna be like, let's listen to this shit show.
I know, right? Well,
Mhm.
thank you.
Yeah.
And for our listeners, when you listen to the full-blown episode, we hope it makes you laugh a little, to be frank.
Yeah, I mean, y'all, I call the healthcare system the cartel. So
And
I think you will have people cheering because I think there are so many people
And
whose
also,
initial reaction and probably steady reaction
Yes.
align perfectly with what you said. And I actually, y'all are so good at always bringing all the perspectives, but it also helps people to see you all are also human.
we are human.
Oh, we're human and good and pissed off a fair bit of the time. But I think
Two really good examples of why to be pissed off between just your two experiences alone. So,
and I appreciate so much your balanced response to some of our hyperbole, because it's interesting for how much Nat and I try to not be reactive when you come for our people.
yeah.
Right. That's not what's happening. But when it feels like that's what's happening, it's going to bring out the worst and the most angry in all of us. And I think that's what
100%.
we're seeing. And so even if
Because it feels like when it is life or death, it shouldn't be a question.
It shouldn't
It
be.
should automatically be yes.
I think that's the biggest thing that gets me riled up.
Yes.
And that's
everybody.
perfectly understandable, is that it just seems so logical.
Yes.
Here is the issue. Here's the solution.
Yes.
Your job is to pay for it. So pay for it. I pay into this so
Yes.
that you can cover me at these times when I need you the most. Why doesn't it work this way?
I pay way too much a month
So true.
to be fighting my insurance company right now for a ambulance ride.
I hear you, friend.
You know what I mean?
I know.
But that's the thing though, is like and I did want to end with this because I do have I have a really good story about how the healthcare system did help me. So I'll just out myself. I have Kaiser. Okay.
Oh, listen, I said, and you may have to investigate this for me. I'm pretty sure I'm on a watch list. I don't know if that's a thing. I don't know if maybe it is. It is now.
Well,
it is fucking now.
yeah.
But
Tina's gonna be mad at you.
Oh, I know. Tina,
Yeah, don't say F.
I know. Don't say
I have like been so good just in my head.
so good.
Tina is gonna listen to me. I have got to keep my potty mouth.
Tina's not gonna come for you. She's not. She's gonna come for you. But that's okay because she loves me.
Yeah.
But go ahead.
Well, what I was gonna say is, and they're under the Affordable Health Care Act, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I think all the companies are to a degree.
well, unless they're
Most.
private, yeah.
Right.
So, real quick, I signed up for this insurance. I had torn my ACL. I signed up for this insurance. I don't know the first thing about how to sign, whatever.
I can
right?
testify. I do all her systems.
Literally, I
She has
know
no idea
nothing.
what she's doing.
So I called this broker and they're like, this will cover whatever you need. Well, it didn't because it was a private insurance company. It was one of those like, whatever. So
wasn't it like a co-op you signed up for? I was like, what the hell are you doing?
no, it was an insurance company, but it was like one of those Christian ones, whatever.
Oh, I can't with any of that, but yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. So it pissed me off because, this broker thinks he knows what he's talking about. And he might have felt like he actually did. And he signs,
sure he did.
Yeah, and he signs, I signed myself up for this insurance, and they're like, well, the plan that you signed up for doesn't cover what you need, so you need to upgrade to this plan. So I upgrade to this other plan, and then they come back and they say, well, now you signed up for this plan after you tore your ACL. So now it's a pre-existing issue. And I'm like, you MFers told me to literally upgrade to this. I tore my ACL after I signed up for the original plan under your same company, and then you guys literally told me this, and to cover their asses, right? And I'm sure there's a recording of it somewhere because I said I need surgery. I need knee surgery, and they said this thing. So what they do is they reimburse me for the months that I've paid, right? And then they kick me off the plan so I can enroll in the Affordable Care Act as like a special enrollment because I was outside of the enrollment period at this point.
Yeah.
Right. So I call Kaiser and they're like, yeah, and I'm like, I'm recording my conversations now because I'm like, screw this. Like,
that's scary.
I gotta record this shit. Yep.
I was like, I have to record everything because if I will sure as shit take some of these people to court if they screw me.
1,000,000%. I mean, what are you supposed to do? You can't just like live with a torn ACL.
No, and I'm too active for that. Like it just wasn't a thing. So I'm on the phone with Kaiser and I'm like, this is what I need. And they were like, thankfully, because of, what Obama did back in the day, there with Affordable Care Act, you can have a pre-existing issue.
Existing conditions were
covered. You wouldn't have even gotten insurance if we didn't have Obamacare.
No, there's no way. I would have just been like,
and that was one of the big things in this last election cycle that they were very concerned about.
Yeah.
And I have pre-existing conditions as well. Like I have things going on, and I think that's the very scary part. I will tell you that as somebody that has been in the healthcare industry as long as I have all the extras.
Yeah.
I have the hospital indemnity coverage. I have, the crisis, the cancer care, like all the, black type policies that you hear about that are all these supplemental policies. They each cost me a few dollars per paycheck. I have them on me. I have them on my husband. Give me all the extra coverage. I could be throwing some money away, but because it is so difficult.
Yes.
When you're open enrolling, you're getting the 50,000 foot view of what's covered.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going into any kind of detail about, does this cover, that's why a knee replacement, that's why I was bringing that up, right? Because there are these very fine lines of what's accepted and what's not, and what can get pre-auth and prior auth and what can't. So
Yeah.
As somebody who's been in it, I get all the extra coverage for that reason.
Oh, for sure.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I'm sure price still wouldn't cover something.
But that was the nice thing. I mean, I joke that I pay too much a month, but
You're also a catastrophe, though. You really do need all the coverage.
I need coverage.
You do.
I'm active. I like to do things.
Yeah.
And I don't want
I say that as someone whose airway closes up once a year.
Yeah, you know.
Not anymore though, right?
I got that. Yeah, no, we're good now for probably 6 or 7 months. I feel like I feel great.
But I share that because there are good sides to the system.
Yes,
There are
good people in the system.
Yes, and people do want to help, right? Like I was able to get my knee fixed up. My surgeon was great. The guy's gonna have to work on my shoulder now once I have baby because my shoulder's all torn up from the river.
I know she doesn't want to screw up her tattoo though. That's real.
Well, I have to screw it up now.
I know I
can't like this thing hurts all the time.
I know.
I have my whole shoulder tattooed and they're gonna have to cut it.
You are so lucky though. That story just absolutely floored me. I cannot. You are meant to be here.
Oh, thank you.
Baby is meant to be here. Like that was just in such an incredible.
Oh, I was like
painted the picture.
Oh yeah. I was sure shit I was gonna die that day. 100%.
I can't even imagine how terrifying.
Oh, I was like, this is it. Like, bye, Janine.
If you had called me and said this helicopter is going to cost $50,000, I would have said I'm in for 25.
You're like, here's my credit card.
Zoomed off real fast.
I got 50.
Here's my credit card number. Have them run it.
Put a number on this
dude.
chick.
Do they take tap? Can they just?
Right.
Yes, I know.
On the side of the ambulance, just swipe the card.
Like, just for it. She said so, which is actually true, but they wouldn't know that. Right? I would do anything.
Oh my god!
But that's the heart of the issue, right?
Yeah.
It's like
it is. I hope that people, if I could just say like one thing.
Yes.
If people could take all the emotions and the feelings and the passion that they have right now for this issue and drive that towards something that would actually change it. Imagine conversation could look like all of these people feeling the way that they do if they just said, rather than saying let's kill all the CEOs, that changes nothing. They're going to put him back in his seat.
Tiny thing.
They're going to replace him and there's going to be another person in his place.
And they'll just have better security, which is
they want to raise real hell. They should take every ounce of passion, frustration, and care that they have and say to themselves, now what can I do about it? What really, where can I put this that is productive? And that means we won't be in this position 10 years from now.
Yes.
And we need to demand candidates that offer this to us.
Yeah. I mean, we just have completely, we have allowed ourselves to feel powerless to these issues for so long. And I got in this because I truly believe we can transform this industry. I really, really believe it.
Yeah.
And it's just going to take a lot more than just firing off some nasty comments on social media about a CEO being gunned down in the middle of Manhattan. It's going to take more than saying, oh, the shooter was this really hot guy. I support.
Oh, no, they're saying no.
Oh, it turned into the prison chicks.
Honey, I'm telling you right now.
Oh, no.
People are in love.
Oh shit!
It's the way thing. It's the
I don't get it.
I don't get it. Thing. Oh my god!
I don't know. It's wild times. It's wild times.
That is such a beautiful place to end. If we all feel the same way, we got to do something about it, but something productive. And so, if you're listening to the second half, which is coming up right after this, and you are cheering with us. Then let's actually see if we can play it forward and make some changes instead of just getting pissed off at people
and doing something really
stupid and hurting people. We should never hurt people.
No,
we just need.
We are not as powerless as we've been made to believe we are about these.
Well, thank you so much, friend. And
absolutely,
we will see y'all in part 2. And if you're in healthcare, please forgive us. We know more now.
To all my friends who are in healthcare, I love you all.
We love you, and we know more now.
Okay.
Thank you so much. And
that's the power of being human in it all, right?
That's right. We're humans. That we do say that. That's in our tagline.
Yeah, no,
that's your whole thing.
She's got it.
No, she gets it.
I know.
She gets it better than we do.
1,000%.
You're just in it. You're just in it. That's all.
You will see. I will see you very soon. I am certain.
Natalie, it was nice to meet you.
too.
Thank you for inviting me.
Of course.
Thank you for joining us.
You be safe, and Forensic Friends, will see you in part 2.
As always.
Bye, Forensic Friends. I'm Janine.
And I'm Nat.
And as always, thanks for listening, and join us next week for more Crime, Psychology, and Heart.